One document, four numbers. And somehow, those four numbers just settled an argument that's been dividing the internet for the past 2 years. $528,000. $574,000. $493,000. $350,000. Those figures didn't come from social media hype. They weren't influenced by podcast appearances, and they definitely weren't shaped by public opinion. The new WNBA collective bargaining agreement followed a strict formula, and that formula delivered a result that Angel Reese clearly isn't taking well. But before we dive deeper, you need to understand something important. The salary gap between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese? That's not the real story. That gap is just the outcome. The real story is the system behind it. Buried inside the new CBA is a single clause, one that directly links a player's contract value to verified all-WNBA performance during their rookie deal. Clark activated that clause. Reese didn't. And mathematically, that's the entire reason Clark sits at $528,000, while Reese lands at $350,000. The more you understand how this clause actually works, the harder it becomes to take Reese's public reaction at face value. And if you've been following this situation and want a breakdown without the noise, hit that like button. It tells us you want more analysis like this. The clause is known as the EPIC clause. Exceptional performance on initial contract. It was added to the new agreement as a performance-based fast track. The idea is simple. If a player produces at an elite level early in their career, they shouldn't be stuck earning entry-level money while the league catches up. The criteria is very clear. Earn all WNBA honors within your first 3 seasons, and you're put on a fast track toward max-level contracts. You move through the salary system quicker. And the key detail here? This system rewards results, not potential, not popularity, not draft position alone. Clark earned first-team All-WNBA as a rookie, 1 season in, and she had already triggered the clause. Aaliyah Boston reached that same threshold through a different route. Back-to-back All-WNBA selections across her first 2 seasons, paired with elite two-way impact that reshaped Indiana's system on both ends. Her jump from $94,000 to $574,000 isn't a typical raise. It's the system officially reevaluating her worth based on proven production. That's exactly how the structure was designed to function. Now, Angel Reese entered the league as the 7th overall pick in 2024. That draft position gave her an immediate boost above the minimum, which is why she moved from around $75,000 to $350,000. But draft position only takes you so far. To unlock the next level, the EPIC clause, you need all WNBA recognition. And through 2 full seasons, Reese hasn't earned that distinction. That's not a narrative. That's a decision made by the official selection committee evaluating performance across the league. And here's where things get uncomfortable. Cameron Brink, drafted 2nd overall, is earning $493,000. Sonia Citron, the 3rd pick, is at $436,000. Reese, picked 7th, sits below both at $350,000. Even within her own draft class, she's trailing financially. And that reality went public at the exact same time she chose to speak out. For years, the WNBA has faced criticism over how it rewards players financially. The new CBA was designed to address that by introducing a system based on measurable performance. And now that the numbers are out, one thing is clear. The EPIC clause is doing exactly what it was built to do. Players who deliver all WNBA-level production early move up quickly. Those who don't progress at the standard pace. There's no negotiation here. The formula doesn't debate. It calculates. To really understand how 2 players can end up on such different financial paths after just 2 seasons, you have to go back further. Because this didn't start in the WNBA. It started in college. And the signs were already there. Clark entered the league with 62 collegiate records, and a playmaking style scouts had been analyzing for years. Her impact wasn't just about scoring volume. It was about how she controlled entire offenses and forced defenses to completely rethink their strategies. When she reached the WNBA, she didn't rely on reputation. She produced immediately. Rookie records in assists, elite scoring numbers, playmaking efficiency, first-team All-WNBA in year one, an all-star selection, and even a Team USA roster spot, where her performance placed her alongside the best players in the world. Every one of those achievements was documented, verified, and eventually reflected in her contract. Reese's first 2 seasons told a different story. Her standout strength was rebounding, but when analysts looked deeper, the numbers became more complicated. A large portion of her offensive rebounds came from her own missed shots. In her second season, she shot 39% from the field overall. Inside 5 feet, she finished below 50%. From 5 to 9 feet, just 13%. Her layup conversion rate sat around 31%, despite attempting one of the highest volumes of layups in the entire league. So while the rebound totals looked impressive on paper, the efficiency behind them told a different story. Meanwhile, Clark's impact extended far beyond her own stat line. Defenses couldn't sag off her without risking open threes, which created driving lanes for teammates like Kelsey Mitchell, and open-up cleaner looks for Aaliyah Boston inside. Players like Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull were getting wide-open shots, because defenders were constantly tracking Clark's movement. That kind of influence doesn't show up in one stat. It shows up everywhere around it. And that's exactly what all WNBA voters evaluate. Availability also played a role. Reese dealt with injuries in her second season, with extended periods of unclear, day-to-day updates. During that time, she still appeared at promotional events tied to her Reebok deal, while officially listed as sidelined. Clark also faced health challenges, but Indiana's communication around her status was immediate and transparent. And that difference didn't go unnoticed, especially by brands evaluating long-term investments. When the new CBA numbers were released, the Epic Clause did something important. It created the first official document in the Clark versus Reese conversation that couldn't be spun or reframed. This wasn't media opinion. It wasn't debate. It was a contract outcome generated by a performance-based formula, and Reese's reaction to that document told the business world exactly how she responds to situations like this. Now, we want to hear from you. Do you think the Epic Clause is the right way to structure WNBA salaries? Or does a system like this make it harder for certain types of players to succeed financially? There's a real debate here. So drop your thoughts in the comments. Because while the $178,000 salary gap grabbed headlines, it's actually just part of the story. When you zoom out, there's another financial gap happening at the same time. And this one isn't measured in thousands, it's measured in tens of millions. Nike looked at Clark's first 2 professional seasons, the attendance spikes, the TV ratings, the merchandise sales, and made a massive decision. An 8-year, $28 million commitment. That footwear deal didn't come from viral clips or social media buzz. It was built on 2 full years of hard commercial data. Proof that Caitlin Clark's name consistently drives real sales at a level that justifies a long-term investment. Nike has been analyzing consumer behavior since the days of Michael Jordan. They understand exactly what a generational commercial athlete looks like. And when they saw those signals in Clark, they locked her in for 8 years. That alone tells you everything. Then there's Gatorade. Reports place that partnership around $50 million. And they didn't just sign her. They built an entire signature product line around her. A custom flavor, Rainbow 3. And when it hit stores, it sold out so fast that the sellout itself became news. That's not normal. Gatorade doesn't create signature products for athletes just because they're trending online. They do it for athletes who can generate real, measurable demand at scale. And the Rainbow launch proved Clark can do exactly that. Even faster than internal projections expected. State Farm approached things from a completely different angle. This is a company that's been running national ad campaigns since 1922. Over a century of branding, across every era of sports and media. And in all that time, they had never built their brand around a female athlete. Not once. Until now. Clark changed that. A company with 100 years of consistent strategy looked at her data and decided to pivot. That's not experimentation. That's a calculated business move, made by people who base decisions on long-term projections. Wilson Sporting Goods took it even further. They created a full signature line for Clark. The last athlete to receive that level of treatment? Michael Jordan. Not a current NBA superstar. Not another WNBA player. Michael Jordan. Wilson reviewed over a century of partnerships and concluded that Clark's market impact justified doing something they hadn't done since the most dominant commercial figure in basketball history. That comparison alone says more than any salary figure ever could. Now look at the full picture. Nike, Gatorade, State Farm, Wilson. That level of simultaneous investment? There's no precedent for it in women's basketball. Every one of those companies had options, and they all chose Clark. Reebok made a different decision. They signed Angel Reese, launched her shoe with real marketing energy, backed it with distribution, and then watched it sit on shelves. Weeks passed, then months, and the product didn't move. Quietly, the marketing began to pull back. Ads slowed down, then stopped. The shoe shifted into discounted pricing. And eventually, the campaign went silent. Because brands don't go quiet when something is working. They go quiet when the numbers aren't there. That's how the market speaks. And the Reebok situation has been sending that signal for a while now. From launch excitement to retail markdowns, it's one of the clearest real-time examples of how the endorsement market is reacting. Quick pause. If this channel has been your go-to for breaking down what's really happening behind the numbers in women's basketball, consider becoming a member. That support is what allows us to keep doing deep dives like this. Now look at how the industry is ranking Clark. Forbes placed her 4th on their list of the most powerful women in sports, a ranking based on revenue and brand impact, not popularity contests. Sportico named her the most influential female athlete of 2025, using the same data-driven approach. When someone appears that high on both lists at the same time, it means the business numbers behind them are massive. Even outside of basketball, her influence is showing. Her front row seat at a Prada show alongside Eileen Gu. That wasn't a favor. At that level, those seats are reserved for people who drive attention and sales. Clark earned that spot because her reach now extends far beyond the game. Reese's response to moments like this has followed a familiar pattern. The same tone we saw during their college rivalry. Reese at LSU, Clark at Iowa. That dynamic has carried into the professional level. And brands pay very close attention to that. They run detailed sentiment analysis on how an athlete's public behavior affects brand perception. They evaluate whether that behavior creates long-term risk. And right now, Reese's track record in that area has raised concerns. The market has been adjusting quietly for 2 seasons, with the Reebok situation being the most visible example. Meanwhile, Clark's approach has been consistent. Every time there's noise, she responds the same way. Play at an elite level. Earn all WNBA recognition. Show up for Team USA. Keep building partnerships. That consistency is incredibly valuable. Because when brands commit to multi-year deals worth tens of millions, they need stability. They need confidence. And Clark's track record gives them exactly that. Now consider how this latest situation looked from a sponsor's perspective. Reese saw the CBA's salary numbers, a direct reflection of her current production, and responded publicly with frustration. Not a plan, not a roadmap forward, but a complaint. And companies watching that moment, they noticed. When the numbers were released, Reese went online and said she deserves $1 million in salary. That's the moment this entire discussion leads to. Because instead of addressing the system, or outlining how she plans to reach that level, she made a direct demand. And the timing made it even more impactful. At that exact moment, the salary breakdown was trending. Forbes' rankings were circulating. Sportico's list was being discussed. And Clark's Gatorade success was dominating headlines. All at once. And while all of that was happening, Nike, Gatorade, State Farm, and Wilson were watching. What they saw, it reinforced the decisions they had already made. For brands already unsure about Reese's volatility, this became another data point. Because every public reaction matters. Each one either strengthens or weakens the next opportunity. Now here's the part most people aren't talking about. The epic clause isn't a final result. It's momentum. Clark's $528,000 salary? That's not the peak. It's just the beginning. She's already on track to qualify for a max contract by 2027, based on her rookie season alone. And if she earns another All-WNBA selection in 2026, which, based on her current level, is a realistic expectation, the next level of the system activates. At that point, projections have her approaching a supermax deal, around $1.7 million per year by 2028. Reese publicly asked for $1 million. Clark is positioned to surpass that by a wide margin, and the gap between them? It doesn't stay at $178,000. It grows. Every season Clark maintains this level, and every season Reese doesn't reach All-WNBA status. That gap widens. Now look at Indiana heading into 2026. Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hull, Sophie Cunningham. That's already a roster capable of competing at the highest level. And here's the wild part. They're paying Clark just over $500,000 in base salary, while she's generating tens of millions in endorsement value around the league. That's not just a star player. That's an economic engine.